My name is Matthew Hill. I'm running for Council at Large Division 1. I actually come from the managerial side of things. I'm not a politician. I used to be a bar owner way back in the day, and now I run other people's multi-million-dollar businesses, but I'm an operations manager, and this will come into play later in some of the other questions and how we'll actually fix the city.
Yeah, and you can see it shuffles.
Yeah, just shuffle. I heard. Oh, there we go again. This thing.
I know, they really like to.
Are you able to turn the camera and show everybody what we're obsessed with?
I know. I'll show everybody. It's this machine. Why did you decide to run?
Honestly, I ran for mayor several years ago. And when it comes down to it, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. And unfortunately, what I see in this city, having gone to all kinds of neighborhood meetings throughout the entire city, is it's not the government that's moving the football forward. It's individuals, it's small groups of people, it's church groups, it's neighborhood associations. These are the ones that are getting grants. They're executing them without losing money, putting as much, putting as much capital back into the system. And we as a government just can't get it right. And as an operations manager, man, I can't keep watching all of these issues be treated as if they're going to fix themselves or something. And as a manager, like you want to get it done, you want to fix it, and that's what's screaming out to me. But the leader in me says that this city has been on such a bad trajectory for far too long, and it's time for a different direction and more or less a vision. And that vision is making the machine, the city functions of everyday life work correctly.
What do you think is the number one issue facing New Orleans, and how can the city council meaningfully address that issue?
Okay, we can talk about infrastructure, we can talk about our economy, but that's putting the cart before the horse. What has to happen is we have to focus on the workers of the city government and the functions of how it works from day to day, because we can't get the streets fixed until we fix the department that fixes the streets. And in doing so, we will be able to change the communication model, change how people feel about their job every day. Because let's face it, it's a toxic work environment. It's extreme, and everybody's worked in a toxic work environment at least once in their life, where it's so hard to get your job done. Be it you don't have the equipment, you don't have the time, you don't have the personnel, or maybe you just have to wait forever to get whatever parts you need to be able to complete the assignment. And as a worker, as a frontline worker and a frontline manager, that beats up on you over time, and you buy out of your job. And we can't deny that that's one of the biggest situation that we are facing to get the machine moving forward. Once we do that, then we can start getting the streets fixed. Then we can start dealing with the economy as a whole. But until then, we're just going to keep throwing money at problems that we can't physically solve.
New Orleans residents have a lot of complaints about utilities, from rising bills to frequent outages. How will you approach regulating Entergy and Delta Utilities, the city's new gas company?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I don't know if y'all can see this pin that I have on here, but here will be okay. All right.
Got it focused.
What this means is that I know that we cannot properly regulate this state agency, and I'll get into Entergy in a second. But it's time to dissolve the Sewerage and Water Board, and by that I mean the governing body. Chop it off. Then we're going to move all operations, personnel, and equipment under Public Works in City Hall, where it belongs, under the mayor, so that we can actually regulate it. We can tell what's going on. And along with this, so we, as far as Entergy is concerned, Yeah, I'm going to sit back. I know I'm all on it, but as far as Entergy is concerned, Entergy is a monopoly, and we've had it since the 80s. This monopoly is not going to change. We cannot regulate it. And this is not a dig at any other candidate, but there is somebody that is running for mayor that levied a hefty fine on Entergy. But who paid that fine? You and me paid that fine because businesses don't pay taxes, they don't pay fines, and they don't pay fees. They may write the check, but it's you and me that cost is passed on to. So we got hurt by trying to reel them in. Done with that. It's time to take over, as far as Orleans Parish is concerned, it's time to take back the power lines, old school Nazi style. And then I will bring in 3 to 5 energy competitors, and I will bust up this monopoly that Entergy is. And we just gave birth to a brand new monopoly called Delta Utilities. We'll bust that up too, because we cannot get your bills down. It will not happen until we bring in competitors, because we've got cheaper energy coming out of Oklahoma, but Entergy isn't buying it, and they're not going to pass those savings on to us. It's time to stop beating around the bush and go after this big elephant in the room and take it down.
Our water utility is also a source of frequent complaints, particularly when it relates to drainage. Does the city need a stormwater fee to pay for drainage infrastructure? Why or why not?
I stand against it, and I'll tell you why. Because stormwater fee, you're going to pay, but you and I both know the system can't execute it. They can't get the job done. And we need to stop pretending that they can. They cannot. So I will not stand by a stormwater fee that is going to throw money into a system that's either just going to be squandered or corruption's going to get it. That's the reality. It's time to stop it. Okay? It's time to bring it back in-house. And we already know that the state legislature and the governor are highly upset with this system. They put out a report, I would say 2 years ago, stating that it's a mess. Something has to be done with it, but nobody has stepped up and said, it is time. And I'm not saying anything that nobody's ever thought of before. I know how many people out there that are watching this now have thought about why isn't it working? It's because it's 2 separate agencies, and we need to bring them together so that we have pumping, drainage, and streets all under one roof, so that we don't keep... Look, everybody had a nice road for 6 months, and then somebody came and dug it up again, and then he didn't even do the job correctly, and now there's water bubbling up. This has to stop. And if we charge you a storm fee, a cleaning fee, it's not going to get any better. It's just going to cost you more.
We may be dealing with a very different fiscal reality in the coming years. There is no longer an influx of American Rescue Plan Act dollars. Federal funding for certain public health, climate resiliency, and disaster recovery projects is not guaranteed. Still, the City Council will steward a budget of well over $1 billion. How should the council decide what to prioritize in that budget?
Okay. When it comes to prioritization, okay, the reality is we are only making 45%, the city itself is only generating 45% of what our entire budget is. So 55% of that is exactly what you said. It's coming from outside, which means we either have to raise taxes, which I'm not doing, or we need to spread out the base. Okay. First off, we left about $200 million on the table when it came to collecting sales tax. Okay. If we want to recoup that money, we need to invest the money in the department to be able to go after these people. How many audits did we do versus how many audits did Jefferson Parish do? I want to say we did about 20 to 25 audits, and they do in the hundreds. Okay. We are leaving so much money on the table that is your money. And if I don't want to raise taxes, then I need to increase the population and move around how we do our economy. And by this, I mean, right now, all of our eggs are in the tourism basket. We cannot continue that way. That is why your favorite restaurant has closed in the past 7 months. We can't keep relying on this system. What we need to do is we need to get out into the east. We need to rezone Almonaster. We need to streamline our zoning and our permit system, because there are too many people that are still caught up waiting to get their permits to get their businesses built. And these businesses mean money coming into the system that you don't have to pay. So if we want to be able to boom our economy, we have to deal with zoning, permitting, streamline the system. And that, once again, is going back to your frontline workers and frontline managers saying, how can we do this better? Let's use lean systems and pick out what doesn't need to be there, streamline it, save everybody time, money, and frustration, because everybody's been to the one stop and learns the same thing. It's the one place you go and you stop. Or you have to go to the 6th floor, and then you got to go to the 4th floor, then you got to go back to the 2nd floor, then you got to come back to the 3rd floor. That hinders business, and all that costs money, and that is tax money that you don't need to be paying if we can get their systems up and rolling.
A huge part of the council agenda every meeting is land use and zoning. How will you approach those decisions? What considerations do you think should be prioritized? And how should affordability factor into that?
We need to take a serious look on how we zone, and I'm going to use Frenchman Street versus Decatur Street to give you a very good example of how we misuse zoning. Frenchman Street is supposed to be a neighborhood, and though it is not zoned to have bars or music. And what we did to accommodate this system was create zoning overlays, okay, which is essentially an exception to the rule. And we keep stacking exceptions to the rule. And now Frenchman Street is overrun by tourists, and it has lost what it originally was. Now, I'm going to skip back to the 200 and 300 block of Decatur. Those are zoned VCE1. They are very specifically supposed to be what Frenchman Street is. But they're not. Why? Because there are two monopolies that sit on that block. One of them is the House of Blues. The other one is Tippy Tina's. How are they a monopoly? Because they have their zoning system that does not allow another music venue at all within 300 feet. How big do you think a city block is? It's 300 feet. So between the two of them, we're not allowed to have music in the French Quarter where it is supposed to be, where it is zoned to be, because we have too many interests that are involved and we're not following our original plans. I plan on going and looking at our zoning system. Yes, it's part of the master plan, but I think there's a lot of things that are incorrect in that master plan, and how we utilize zonings is one of them. So I'm going to be a traditionalist when it comes to zoning, because we can't keep coming up with an exception to the rule and another exception to the rule and another exception to the rule, because it gets to the point when there are no rules, anything goes, and then it's just a mess, and we have it. Little pockets of that all over the city.
What do you think is something that an average voter might misunderstand about the city council, or what do you wish voters knew about the job?
A few things. One, this is a mayoral system. And in the federal system, we try to balance the executive branch, the legislative, and the judicial branch. We try to make it easy so that they can check and balance each other. In New Orleans, that's not quite how it operates. We have vested a lot of power in the executive branch. I don't particularly have a problem with that. However, what that has done for, I feel like, your average constituent is make you think that the mayor is the end all and be all of how this city is going to work, and that they are the most pivotal thing that exists. And that's technically correct if they have a vision and they have a direction. What I want to offer is something we haven't had since post-Katrina, and that is a very distinct vision of where we're going in the city council. A very distinct vision that may or may not line up fully with what the mayor wants. The mayor can set a vision. That's what their job is. But it's our job as the city council to set a vision of how we're going to govern the system. What is it that we want out of the system? Because everybody wants execution. And as the city council, we oversee it. We ask the questions. We pull the people in to say, why are we spending money on this and that? But what we're not asking the executive branch is why we have so much paper. Why do we have 15 copiers that we don't use? Why do we have so much land that's owned by Orleans Parish that we are not using, we are not selling, we are not doing anything with? All these questions have to be answered. And with the new mayor, look, whoever the new mayor is has a lot to deal with, but they need the support of the city council to help get the machine working correctly. Just like a car, if we don't maintain it, it's eventually going to peter out and not work. And that's what you are literally seeing right now.
What's something surprising that most voters wouldn't know about you?
I don't think the voters know a lot about me. But I'll just kind of make it kind of simple. I was actually born in San Salvador, El Salvador, in 1979, as a civil war, a brutal civil war, was unfolding. They were murdering babies. The things that happened there are so disgusting we couldn't even talk about it. But my mother, who grew up right here in Gentilly, adopted me out of that war. Myself and another young lady were the last two out. I was brought here, I was given a teddy bear, and I met my family for the first time. The opportunities that I have been given, I can't express, but I owe a debt. I owe a debt to you, I do owe a debt to the city, and I owe a debt to this country. And I will stop at nothing to make sure that you have the best opportunities that you possibly have, just like I did, because success does not discriminate. If you keep plugging, success will be there. But opportunity does discriminate, and it's not always there. And if we want a city where there is opportunities, we need to build them.
Can you tell me?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But yeah, I often ask myself, why me? Why did I survive? I don't got an answer to that. I just know what I got to do. That's it.
Can you tell me a little bit about your mom?
Oh, she's amazing. She grew up here in Gentilly. She went to UNO. She was vice president of the Zeta Tau Alphas at UNO. She went on to get a master's degree in accounting over at American University. Met my father. They decided to adopt me, and Then out of nowhere, a miracle happened, and my sister was born. My mother she was a beta tester for AOL. Oh, this is crazy. So I remember one day she comes to me. She had just brought home like one of those black and white Apple IICs. And she's all excited. It's like 1988 or something like that. It might have been 89. Anyway, she's like, oh my goodness, I was just talking to this young man in Japan. His parents are in the military, and he's got this Nintendo that is small, but you can't play it in the dark. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. Year and a half later, that was the Game Boy. But she ended up leaving AOL to go teach at one of the best schools in the country. And she started out with English and math, but then ended up in computers. And I think we can port this into what we're missing in education here. By the third grade, she had children learning programming. In the fourth grade, they were learning how to build websites. By the fifth grade, they were working on robotics. The students will do this, but you got to challenge them to it. And I don't think that the students are challenged enough in this. I know I just totally jumped subject here, but I don't think that they're challenged enough, because we can all see that these young children can pick up an iPad and figure it out pretty quickly. But if we gave them color-coded drag and drop programming, which exists, it's called Scratch, we put that in front of them in the second and third grade, they're going to be making programs. And then they're going to be able to take those Legos, Technic Legos that have the motors, and they're going to be able to manipulate those things by the fourth and fifth grade. And if we really want, if I want to transfer what my mother gave to me to the students of this city, it would be shooting at a higher goal. That's what it would be. But that's what my mama gave me. All right.
All right, last question.
Yes, ma'am.
You're known as a perennial candidate, someone who reliably runs in city races each time there's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Why do you keep running, and what do you hope to accomplish?
I keep running because two things. One, I think I've already covered. If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. But the real truth is, I'm the only human being in Orleans Parish that has the knowledge and the certifications to fix this city. Every candidate and every race is running around being like, I know how to fix it, we're going to fix it, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that. They don't know how to do it. And it's through lean systems and lean government. Lean government is used all over the United States. I would say places that you know, places that are our arch rivals like Houston and Nashville, and let's take Denver, Colorado. But I think the most important lean government to keep in mind for New Orleanians is Fort Wayne, Indiana, because they took their pothole turnover time from weeks to 2 hours, because they had the frontline workers redesign the system. And then thus the frontline workers bought back into their job, and they did a much better job than anybody could have imagined. But it's because Fort Wayne took the time to invest in these people. And as a manager, and I was the youngest bar owner in the French Quarter, and I fought the city left and right. I fought the House of Blues left and right. I fought zoning left and right. These are so frustrating, and there has been nobody ever that I have seen that has, one, the true interest in changing these seemingly mundane issues, and two, there's nobody that has the vision or the expertise to do so, because there's a psychological aspect. I'm a change management specialist as well. So when you're introducing new things into a system that people work at, you have to know that not everybody's going to buy in at once. And you have to know that some people are going to be afraid. Some people are going to be angry. And you have to maneuver that, because once to be able to get everybody to buy in, you have to be not only an information broker, but you got to be personally accessible, so that when people have questions, you're more than just a talking head, you're a resource. That's why I'm a perennial candidate, because somebody's got to do it correctly.